Anyway, on to the Skewer debate. Every month there's one topic that cannot be fully explored by just one op-ed. We have to have debaters come up on stage, hash it out, and you, the audience, decides the winner. This month, Twitter, the terminally ill second cousin of the social media family, like, you know you're related and you know you should be sad, but like you've never really met him, and like Twitter was in the news this February as two major celebrities used it as the staging ground for their public cries for help, specifically Jeb Bush and Kanye West. Let's bring our debaters to the stage. First, Stephanie Weber, writer for Reductress, The Whiskey Journal, Above Average, Modern Notion, many others. She's performed stand-up nationwide. She was in the first Skewer. She's great. Stephanie Weber. Hey, Stephanie, who will you be talking about?
Kanye motherfucker West, baby.
We'll then invite Professor Explanation for Jeb Bush. We got actor of stage and screen Ian Rigg. You can see his silent film, The Disappearing Act, on YouTube. You can also see him this August in Oh Coward at the Dead Writers Theater. Also, he is one dapper-looking motherfucker, as you'll soon discover, Ian Rigg! So the way this works is each of them is going to have 3 minutes to show to read opening statements that they have written in advance. They will then have to answer questions from me that they have not seen in advance. They're going to have to make it up and make up the answers. Hopefully, are funny. And then they're going to have again 3 minutes of closing arguments. After which you will applaud for the winner. Let's just go ahead and begin with you, Ian. Why not?
Hello. I imagine Mr. West has sent a spokesperson in his stead because his life is dope and he does dope shit. I'm Jeb Bush, and I decidedly don't do dope shit. Now, as literally the only Republican here, let's address that the elephant in the room is actually a donkey. I am like a Texan Eeyore. And boy, do I feel like an ass. I let my campaign advisor make my slogan, Jeb! Reminding you of the one coworker who emails exclamation points so frequently that they've lost all meaning. And as the internet wore on, my campaign went from Jeb to Jeb to Jeb. My leading competitors were a penis-measuring robot, a neurosurgeon who thinks the pyramids were built by a Bible character to store grain, the Zodiac Killer, and an escaped Oompa Loompa on a quest for vengeance, hell-bent on destroying the entire country along with the chocolate factory. Did you think you'd live to see the day the most reasonable candidate was a member of the goddamn Bush family? The only thing that set me apart from my opponents this June was that I thought South Carolina should take down its Confederate flag. And I'm the one who lost. But I will have you know, my poll numbers almost pushed past 4%. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. By this point in the debate, I've typically been interrupted by a man-child who doesn't hesitate to spew vitriol at people of color, women, and the freaking Pope, but refuses to disavow the Ku Klux Klan. Now, people wonder why I lost, and I'll tell you why. It's because I'm so dull and so sad that you're reluctant to even pity me. Now, in my pocket, along with my little baby Jesus and rosary beads, I carried around little turtles and distributed them to children, saying, "Slow and steady wins the race." It would seem I didn't realize that wasn't the real moral of the story, that the moral is actually arrogance will destroy you, only the hare running against me won't ever stop to take a nap because he's fueled by the racist rage of thousands of uncles you don't want to talk to at Thanksgiving. But wouldn't it be sadder if I told you the irony wasn't lost on me? As evidence of the beautiful banality of my existence, look no further than the cries for help on my Twitter account. The Twitter account of a dad who just made a Twitter account and just doesn't know how lame he looks. Now, what kind of man with a shred of self-respect tweets, "Show your hashtag all in for Jeb, shop koozies, hoodies, crew necks, and more," doesn't that make you physically cringe with how pathetic it is? A photo of my campaign bus said, "Safer, stronger, freer America." I had to make up a word that happened to rhyme with what Donald Trump called me. A man who said he'd have sexual relations with his own daughter bullied me around to the point where I just had to fight fire with fire. So I tried to get on the elevator to that Trump Tower saying that war against radical Islam is the war of our time, or my leadership will start holding the government and employees accountable, especially when it comes to providing care for our veterans, despite being from the party of radical Christian extremism that does nothing but cut down veteran benefits. I made pandering posts about visiting a children's basketball game where I looked indistinguishable from all the other sad dads. The most provocative thing I ever posted was a picture of a gun with Gov. Jeb Bush engraved on it, with the caption, "America." Which, now that I think about it, was more or less the same kind of picture that undid Anthony Weiner. And in perhaps the saddest act, I asked my brother George to campaign for me. This is what I get. I literally once had to explain to my brother that SpongeBob isn't real, and this is what I get. Sadder still, I was the governor of Florida. Florida, the land of tacky tourism, alligators, racist retirees, and stand-your-ground laws, where dreams and justice go to die. My dreams have certainly died. To make this all the saddest, I'm only here because I have suspended my sad campaign. To end my pain and end my campaign, I took off my glasses and my resignation speech because I no longer wanted to look like that one guy in HR whose name you always forget, or a somehow even more doleful Hank Hill. My life is so sad that I have to come here and debate how sad it is. Oh, please give me your vote. Then I can get back in the business of making a more peaceful world. They're kicking me out the door.
Alright, Kanye West, right? The name itself just sparks awe and respect to everyone across this great nation. Am I right or am I right? I know I'm right. I mean, he's responsible for our dark, twisted fantasies, our college dropouts. He's our Yeezus. Sing our praises on high. Amen forever. But Yeezy demonstrated a worrisome downfall this month. That while some might say it was publicity for his album, Life of Pablo, I know for certain was not, and it was absolutely a cry for help, as I'm going to demonstrate to y'all. But it is definitely most evident, and I want you all to know that I'm leading up to it, in this weekend's praise of the film Zoolander 2. He called it high art. That's real. Alright? So let me just break it down for you guys real quickly. Here's some evidence. And there's a whole bundle of evidence. This was a joy to research. Right off the bat, changing the name of his album. The week it was coming out, several times. Like, what was going on there? You know what I mean? Like, if you're really going to publicize your album, we got to know what it's called. You know, that's like PR number one. And that's also how you know that he controls his own Twitter. Like, he does not have a social media guy. It's all him. We know it's him. I bet he has an assistant that's like, can I do this? And he's like, hell no, I've got this. Yay forever. But furthermore, he claimed that he didn't like butt stuff, even though he's married to the most famous ass of our generation. Like, come on, Ye. Like, we know that's not real. You didn't marry Kim Kardashian for her personality. He straight up asked Mark Zuckerberg for money. Just like, he straight up asked him for money and said, call me by 2 p.m. Two things. Didn't know that was an option that all of us had. Didn't know we could be like, yo, Mark! I gotta make rent. Didn't know we could do that. Now I do. Also, it kind of made it seem like they have each other's phone numbers, which makes me think that Mark Zuckerberg, like Kanye's the friend that when he calls, he's like, ugh, it's Kanye. Yeah, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, he really reluctantly answers the phone. When he said Bill Cosby innocent, right? Like, that was maybe, like, the most worrisome thing and all. And we'll get to that in a moment, all right? I want to come back to that one. But absolutely the most unsettling thing of all of his behavior was this weekend when he saw Zoolander 2 twice. He saw it twice. We'll get to it. All right, so let's start by unpacking Bill Cosby innocent. All right, his tweet on February 9th, okay? So this felt like he was swatting out into the void. Kanye's been silent for a while. Remember, he was taking a break off of social media. I don't know if you follow your Yeezus, but I do. He took a break off of social media because he was getting too much flack, right? So he comes back full force by saying Bill Cosby innocent in all capitals. In all capitals, swatting into the void there, all right? Do you think he believes that? I don't think he knows who Bill Cosby is anymore. Like, that's where I'm standing, you know what I mean? The album fiasco as well was pretty well documented, but I want to take it to a different tweet that happened only days after Life of Pablo, his album, was released, which also, like, what is that title? You know what I mean? Like, of all the cool shit you were putting down, like, what does that even mean? It's like it sounds like a, like, Mexican novel that was written in, like, 1800. Like, why would we do this? He tweeted days later, "My next album is titled TurboGrafx 16, ... as of now, ... That's absolute insanity, you guys. That's the name of, like, an Angel Fire website. You know what I mean? Like, that's not catchy. How does he already know the name of his next album? Took him forever to decide Life of Pablo. Unless you're like, oh, he's playing mind games with us. No, he's not, you guys. He tweeted, "I'm going to sell coats in winter this month." Like, what the fuck? Why did you write that? Unacceptable. So I could go on and talk about how he tweeted, "I own your child" to Wiz Khalifa. In a moment where he just forgot how parenting works. You don't call dibs on children that, like, are of your ex-girlfriend. That doesn't work. That's like what he was doing there. Someone reacted. That's what happened. He also on Grammy night, I mean, he tweeted a slew of things on Grammy night, but my favorite is, "Us real guys want to have music fun too." That's a real word-for-word quote. Us music guys want to have fun too. Like, did he feel left out this year? Like, what's going on there, Kanye? Us real guys. All right. It's adorable. On February 24th, he tweeted this thing, which I'm still confused about. Maybe you guys can help me. "There are some lame fake accounts trying to make Kanye-isms that are not Mark Twain level." I could be wrong, but Kanye's never released a sardonic, witty novel, like, ever. That's never happened. Again, I think that maybe he forgot who Mark Twain was. So he's reaching out into the void. All right, so let's go to the debate side of this, right? Which I'm probably going to be asked about. So one could argue that he is, I know what's coming. Sorry, I'm a troll. One could argue that he is, like, totally aware of what he's doing. That's a criticism that's totally valid. That this publicity is just for the album that came out. But I just think there's, like, so much evidence that says it's not true. For example, Us Weekly has reported, I know, they're, like, basically HuffPo, that Kim Kardashian is actually not pleased with all of his Twitter behavior. And that it's rumored that she's asked him to seek therapy. Which I feel like has to be true, and, like, it has to be really, really bad, because I feel like even asking him to do dishes is daunting. Like, asking him to see a therapist has got to, like, take a lot of courage, Kim K. Go you, girl. And, like, I feel like, also, okay, here's another thing, you guys. He also tweeted, "I'm not a rapper," like, at one point, which to me proves that he's in no way promoting himself. Like, he has a rap album out, and you wouldn't buy a rap album from someone that's like, "Not a rapper, guys." It's a mystery what this album is. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't get medicine from a doctor that's like, "This is going to cure your sickness." BP Dub's not a doctor. You know? Throw caution to the wind. That wouldn't happen. You're insane. So all of this is not publicity. This is a full-on mental breakdown. Like, absolutely, 100%. No further proof is needed than the Zoolander 2 tweets. On February 27th, Kanye West tweeted the following in this order. "I saw Zoolander 2 for the second time." That's one. Here comes the Will Ferrell ones. "Will Ferrell has reached walking, living, breathing God status. His existence is a blessing." That tweet is about Will Ferrell. Oh my god. Next, so he kind of explains himself in this one. Perhaps it was seeing him play a character he played 15 years ago with 15 years more experience that show how sharp and Bruce Lee status he is. Bruce Lee status! Will Ferrell we're talking about! The cowbell guy, okay? It's insane. Then this one. This one's good. We all know Will Ferrell has always been the one! Multiple exclamation points. Like he's in like Matrix level right now. Like Will Ferrell's a Christ figure right now, okay? But then he goes on to talk a little bit more about the movie. And let's shout out to the art direction, ... Candy on the screens! What's going on in Zoolander 2? High art. That sounds like a Katy Perry video. That doesn't sound like... Okay. Then he wrote, it's so inspiring. Thank you for existing, Zoolander 2. So you can't read those tweets, I don't think, in sequence and not believe that Kanye is having a full-on celebrity meltdown. Like, absolutely, this is Britney Spears shaving her head level to me. I would even go so far to say that if any of my friends tweeted this kind of bullshit, I would immediately tweet back, you okay? Like, absolutely. I'd absolutely cut in. And I think, in conclusion of my opening statements, which I have so far given, it is troubling behavior, and it's far more troubling than Jeb Bush trying to be president.
Very interesting interpretations of 3 minutes from both of you. Now we reach the question and answer portion of our debate. I'm going to ask our candidates, our debatants, some questions, and I'm going to answer them. Ian, why did you not tell me that you were going to be in character, thereby invalidating all the questions I wrote in advance, which assumed that you were not going to be in character?
No, baby, Jeb Bush is all about the unexpected. Like, for instance, my brother called me before this debate, and he just wanted to clear the air. You see, Mr. West had accused my brother of not caring about black people after Hurricane Katrina, and he wants to go on record saying that he loves snakes on a plane. Let it be noted that one of Mr. West's best tracks, Jesus Walks, would not have been possible without my brother's Oopsie Daisy Wharf.
Stephanie, Jeb Bush released one tweet, the picture of the gun that said America on it. Basically a suicide note / dick pic, the subtext of which could fill an entire novel.
It's coming to you.
Kanye's got a whole bunch of tweets, yes, but what one tweet can match the insanity of that gun tweet?
That's a good question. I think I really do think it is when he called Will Ferrell a blessing. Like, I think it's either that or when he blamed Drake for a whole album not coming out. Like, one of those reasons. We all know Drake's too nice for that. Come on.
Or rather, Jeb.
Jeb!
He's not. He's not really Jeb. He's lying to all of you.
As are all my opponents.
Anyway, so that gun pic I talked about, clearly that made it through at least one social media intern. What was the message you were trying to say with that, and why did it end up being suicide is imminent?
Because suicide is imminent. Can I call you Tom? I don't know if it's Mr. Harrison.
Whatever you feel comfortable with, Jeff.
That's okay. Thank you, Tom. I'll put an exclamation point. Tom! Now, America has always been about two things. It's been about freedom and about reckless endangerment of people's lives. And and that's what that gun peg was all about. Thank you.
Stephanie. Yeah. So Kanye, we all agree, out of his fucking mind.
Yeah.
Some might say, I don't know who, that his tweets are so hilarious that they're a bad cry for help because no one's going to want to make them stop. How would you respond?
Well, mental illness isn't really taken seriously in this country. So like his mental breakdown is so LOL, and I totally get it. So that's why stars do things like shave their heads and like do a lot of drugs. Like they have to hit like the most terrible point in their lives in order to be taken seriously. And I know this is like a serious moment and a funny show, but I think he does need help. You're welcome.
Okay, one more question for closing statements. I want you both to give me your answer. Say that both Kanye and Jeb get the help they were calling out for. They get sent to a secluded island spa to relax. When they inevitably meet and obviously become best buds immediately, what radical island hijinks would your person first recommend that you both do? Whoever wants.
Yeah. Okay. Well. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here based on stories I've heard about Kanye in the past and say that the album or the hijinks that he wants to do with his buddy Jed is probably make Jed like say a bunch of speeches that he would have given if he were president. And then like if someone comes by and is like, "What's going on here?" he'd be like, "My boy Jed giving his speeches." And that's what would happen.
I would have to concur that they'd be best buds because the press has really taken to both of them because lions go for the weakest wildebeest of the pack. For instance, The Onion alone wrote headlines about me, and I quote, "Jeb Bush assures pipe-wheeling thugs he'll have the delegates he promised them by next week. Demoralized Jeb Bush succumbs to New Hampshire heroin epidemic, and terrified Jeb Bush beginning to fade from visible spectrum." So I would say that he and Mr. West would reconcile their differences because Jeb, all I ever wanted was for someone to say that I was the greatest of all time. Because no one's ever said that, never will.
Okay. Stephanie, your closing statement?
In conclusion, Ye always be killing it. But is he killing his downward spiral? Absolutely. It's fun to joke about Kanye because he's always been an extreme character. He's always been fun. True story, I saw him live 3 years ago for the Yeezus tour, and he did a 20-minute freestyle song about how it was wrong that we let Michael Jordan play for the Wizards. It felt like he just remembered it happened. It was incensed. Apparently this exists somewhere, like the videos exist, you can find it. But the guy's like notoriously hilarious, right? And I have to imagine, but I also have to imagine that most homeless people that you see walking around talking to themselves were once like the crazy guy at the party. You know, I think that he's on this path, but he's just super famous. And Jed is just a sad, rich white guy who wants to pretend to play president like his papa. He's just fighting for attention from his family on a public level, and he'll be fine because he's always been fine. But Kanye, he has a different background, he has a different life. He's legit going crazy, okay? My closing statements can best be described in the words of Yeezus himself when he tweeted, and this is in all caps, by the way, "I'm so hype right now, everything has changed. Have y'all ever seen Tron? The end of the Tron where everything levels up."
don't typically get the chance to rebut anyone's arguments. But Mr. West reminds me of my Republican opponents in that he either curates his inflammatory comments to cater to and draw in an audience, or he's completely fucking insane. So, yes, Mr. West's public meltdown was enigmatic and embarrassing, but when a man with a colony of chinchillas imprisoned upon his head stole your domain name, just like your family stole any chance of you being president, you're plenty embarrassing. Mr. West may or may not have the self-awareness to realize just how sad he is, but it's abundantly clear that I realize how sad I am. And isn't that the saddest? Mr. West is an enigma. He tweets a mile a minute. He calls his own Kanye-isms, as my opponent has stated, Mark Twain level. There are more moments of madness on his Twitter just this week than I have time to recount, let alone all of February. He begged Zuckerberg, the inventor of Facebook, on Twitter for $53 million. Well, I was rolling in money, a sad sack with a super PAC, and I had over $150 million in my campaign, and it all went to no use. And hell, $53 million is a fraction of what I would raise the national debt by with my economic policies. So Mr. West can easily make that back with his wife's empire or his own fire beats. He cryptically tweeted, "I'ma fix wolves. Well, I'ma fix my knees after my sad sack super PAC comes a-calling for all that money." Perhaps the biggest sign of Mr. West's mental instability came a few days ago where, I agree with you completely, Will Ferrell has reached walking, living, breathing God status. Will Ferrell is the me of comedy. All of these tweets show a certain charismatic crazy that I lack entirely and makes me even more sad. Now, as I've stated, Mr. West is either a perfectly calculating mastermind playing off his manufactured public persona, or he's a mentally unstable musical genius who we love to watch pouring Grey Goose on his own tire fire. Whatever the case, the more he tweets, the more attention he gets, the more powerful he becomes. He's like a Donald Trump who's worth something to humanity. On the other hand, the more I tweet, the less attention I get, the sadder I become. The thing about Kanye and I is that we simply don't compare. Mr. West is a fashion icon on the cover of GQ and designing his own clothing line. My greatest fashion moment came from lugubriously squeezing a hoodie over my head. It was a moment so wide, it should have been nominated for an Oscar. Kanye West is a star in the middle of a supernova, and I am a star that would appear in Sharknado 5. He is a beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy, and I am some old rich white guy. Mr. West may have had the greatest Twitter meltdown of all time, but what's even sadder is that my own was eclipsed. And doesn't that make it the sadder Twitter cry for help? Isn't it much sadder not to burn out, but to fade away? The more Mr. West freaks out, the more notoriety he receives. The more I cry for help, the further into quicksand I sink. Down, 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 into the abyss of apathy, unwanted, unloved. I couldn't win the Party from Hell's nomination. Hell, I couldn't even win my own mother's affection. She said on camera, there had been enough bushes, and when I asked if she'd finally call me her favorite son, she said no. But I can win this. At least let me win this. Please, let me win this. I have to win this. Please clap.
Now comes the time when you, the audience, having seen all of that, are going to decide the winner. You might be thinking, Tom, what does the winner get? For the first couple shows, you'd be like, oh, you're the winner. Leave. Not anymore. Now I have this glorious prize. It's the divine skewer of eternal excellence that pierces the heavens at all times, even unto this very moment. It is a wonderful trophy that anyone would be delighted to have. So what's going to happen is, Eric, you're going to be our impartial judge to determine who gets the louder applause. I'm going to ask you to applaud for each person who's out there the winner. If you do not think a person is the winner, you do not clap. You clap softer, because not clapping is mean. So, if you believe Ian Rigg was the winner of this debate, applaud now. you believe Stephanie Weber was the winner in this debate, please clap now. Eric, who wins the prize? Jim! Amazing, the both of you. Woo! Okay, before I do my little end thing, I just want to say that Skewer is a monthly show. We are here every first Wednesday of the month. It's co-produced with Eric right there. He's going to be hosting next month, as is our way. We also are recording this, as you may have seen, there's a microphone. And we're going to release it as the Skewer podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes or wherever. Give us a review, maybe. We'd like it. You don't have to. Anyway. Oh man. February. The shortest month of the year, but no shortage of news foretelling the demise of society. So glad our op-ed writers chose to cover basically none of it, leaving me to clean it up. Probably the most important news story of the month was the death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, the High Court's most outspoken opponent of gay rights. Now, we don't joke about death here, and how could we, really? It was just a tragedy the way he died in a meeting of his secret hunting society, a place where men can be men with other men, alone, away from anyone else, away from your wife. And strong men with a big heart, guns. Men who understand you. No one understands you like other men do. It's natural to go meet with them alone, secretly, again and again, growing closer. You're closer than anyone. Anyway, yeah, I can't think of any ways to joke about that, so we're just going to move on. And as a performer, you have to make sure that when you say ridiculous things, in order to ridicule them, you have to make sure it's very clear you do not endorse those ideas. I made sure of that last month where I did a bit where I said shit in the voice of Fox News. That was a step that the governor of Maine, Paul LePage, should have considered when he claimed an epidemic of drug dealers named Smoothie were coming to his state to sell heroin and impregnate white women. Now, of course, he didn't mean that in a racist way. So this February, he came and had to give a statement clarifying that, yes, he was not being racist. Oops, sorry, remembered that wrong. He actually clarified that, yes, he was talking specifically about black people when he mentioned Smoothie. To be fair, though, when I think about smoothies, the first thing I think of is gang culture. You never see a banger these days. Got a couple boxes of almond milk under his arm. Always going like, yo, where's the kale? And always going on juice cleanses. No doubt to become more efficient killers. The fact that Paul LePage was in the news again this month for endorsing Donald Trump really just makes the whole affair sickeningly unsurprising. Despite it all, though, this February has been a Black History Month for the ages, probably best summarized by Beyonce's single Formation and subsequent Super Bowl performance. The song and its video were unapologetically steeped in black culture and images, leaving white people no choice but to stand aside and cede the cultural spotlight for once. Ha ha! I am kidding, of course. That didn't happen. Instead, it ignited a feeding frenzy of white people competing for the most attention by running the most woke think piece of all. About how great it was that white people weren't the center of attention for once, but also, please make my think piece the center of attention. Beyonce's Super Bowl performance also saw white people demanding to dominate the narrative again by condemning her use of Black Panther imagery, saying that the group is basically the same as the KKK. Except that, you know, the KKK's signature moves are to dress as spooky ghosts, murder like a lot of people, and endorse Donald Trump, which you'll note none of those things the Black Panthers did. I also really love that this whole fracas hinges on the KKK being universally accepted cultural shorthand for a really bad group. And yet, when the KKK endorses Trump, those same people are like, well, actually, this is fine. Also, 20% of us wish slavery hadn't ended. That's true. Oh, and if you're thinking, but Tom, aren't you, by co-opting these issues right now, needlessly making yourself the center of attention, just as you accused others of being, then, haha, yes, attention is amazing! Also this month, the governor of Mississippi officially named April as the state's Confederate History Month, which I can only assume will be a sobering look at the failed nation that used virulent racism and systematic denial of basic human rights as the foundation of its existence, a month that uses the lessons of history to illuminate how the South's rigid, demented lust for race hate nearly ruined it forever and cost thousands of lives. I mean, what else could Confederate history mean? Oops, sorry, I forgot. The governor of Mississippi said that the fact that they don't talk about slavery in Confederate History Month, quote, doesn't matter for diddly. Yeah, that really happened. But, you know, enough sad news. No month is entirely bad. We hilariously learned that Hitler had a tiny, deformed dick. A piece of news that seems almost too pat an explanation, but I'll take it. Steve Martin performed stand-up for the first time in over 30 years. And probably most exciting for me, Brian Fuller was named showrunner of the new Star Trek TV series. Now, if you don't know who Brian Fuller is, he created and ran the excellent but little watched and quickly canceled Pushing Daisies, the excellent but little watched and quickly canceled Wonder Falls, the excellent but little watched and quickly canceled Hannibal. Oh, Jesus, actually doesn't seem that great anymore. Especially since the new Star Trek will be aired exclusively online on CBS's crappy fake Netflix. It's basically CBS saying to Fuller, hey, buddy, yo, we got that little watched and quickly canceled. I'll take care of it for you. You don't need to worry about that. But as a Star Trek fan, I guess you take what you can get. So, you know, not that bad a month. Oh, except that there's still a town with poison water, and no one has done anything about it, and no one's been punished, and instead the state banned butt stuff. And Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee for president. Time to ride society's bloated corpse like a jet ski into Valhalla. Thank you, everyone. Anyway, so that's their show. Yeah. As I said, you should listen to the Skewer podcast, and also come back next month, any month in the future.
Yeah.
What else did they do?
So next month, first Wednesday of the month, back here, 8 p.m., Cafe Mustache. Oh yes, if you haven't already and if you feel the need, please donate some money so the writers can get paid. We like doing that a lot. So that's all that I have.
Yeah, also, tell people about the Skewer, and also me and Eric do a podcast called You Don't Understand. You can ask us about that later. It's good. Carl was on it. Yeah. Chris Reif was on it. I think Stephanie's going to be on it in like a month and a half. Yeah. But it was recorded. Anyway, thank you. That's all we got. Thanks for listening to the Skewer podcast. If you'd like to come to see a live show, we're here every first Wednesday of the month at Cafe Mustache in Chicago. You can subscribe to the Skewer podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. And hey, why not leave us a review while you're there? A couple of a 5-star. We work hard. We put on a good show. We deserve it. If you want to get in touch with us, you can drop us a line at skewerchicago@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and see you next month. 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 And see you next month.